Then you have a break. There's food downstairs, which you are welcome to partake in. Our service starts at 11 o'clock, and we have some churchy bits to do first, and the cantata will start after the sermon. There's a hymn right after the sermon, during which the orchestra comes out. Tim, right there, will be on hand to collect you and bring you upstairs and tell you when to come out. And then we do the cantata, which should start about 11:35 or something. We should all be done well before noon. It's a short one. Yeah, any questions?
So do we need, if we played the first service, do we need to fill out?
You like sitting back there, is it okay? You want to sit, move forward, come on up. As you guys like, please be comfortable. So good morning, Hart Gaskell family, Dinsmore family, Hill family, Frymanis family, Marsh family, my mother, hello, Mom. So this morning is our survey of Cantata 106. Cantata 106, which is, if Bach never wrote anything after 106, if there were never a B minor Mass or a Matthew Passion, he would still be distinguished and celebrated as one of the great composers of all time, really by virtue of this piece. It's remarkable, slender, little funeral cantata, and it dates from 1707, when Bach was the organist in Mühlhausen. And he likely wrote Cantata 131 within a very short amount of time before it, and we don't know the occasion, the person, oh, I'm sorry, Ken, I didn't go back. We don't know the occasion, the person who died. There were a couple of possibilities. Thanks. A couple of possibilities, but at any case, it's a funeral cantata. And one important thing to note, and our preacher of the day, Stephen Cady, and I've been sort of talking about this. It's important to note that the cantatas were not, they weren't like, the special music, the moment where you got to have some entertainment and a toe tapping and a little reprieve from the preacher, Bible thumping, and you got to relax and enjoy. It wasn't really that. The cantatas were educational. They were not entertainment. And more than that, the intention was that the cantatas would stand commensurate height with the pulpit, that they really, nothing ever let up in this moment, and that everything had a didactic nature to it. And so this is, of course, is a difference in the practice of, say, a votive Mass in the Roman Catholic tradition, where Mass would be celebrated on behalf of the departed soul, so that their life in heaven and so forth would be more enjoyable. This is really about teaching a theology and also meeting a very tender emotional moment. I could go at length talking about the fact that Bach was the tender age of 22 years old when he wrote this piece. And when I think of what I was capable of thinking of at age 22, or rather what I wasn't capable of thinking of at age 22, The fact that you find somebody who has an intellectual curiosity and maturity at age 22 is not surprising. What is surprising is Bach's understanding of this moment of the end of life, of when the soul leaves the body. And I don't think in all of this, in choral music, we tend to do there are a lot of requiems, a lot of moments to musically mark end of life and the hereafter. But I don't think I know of any piece that so brilliantly understands this moment when the soul leaves the body and what happens to the believer and what is the theology and what can we do in our life to prepare for that moment when it happens. So, as I said, I could go at length about that Bach was 22 when he wrote it. But what I'll do instead is guide you through the piece and let you hear the extraordinary creativity and imagination that's just chock-a-block in what is hardly 17 minutes of music. I mean, it's a quick piece. And starting right away with the instrumentation, there's no, he's not just pulling out all the stops necessarily. He's making very discrete choices about an instrumentation for this particular moment. Now that could have been determined, other people could have been involved, we just don't know. But before us today, we have 2 violas da gamba and 2 recorders, and then a continuo group of a cello, a double bass, and an organ. That's it. There's no complement of strings, 2 oboes, 3 trumpets, timpani, none of that today. It's old instruments. If you come closer or are interested to know, you can see that the gamba, you guys have 6 strings? Or is yours 6? Yeah, 6 strings and fretted. But to me, the most important difference in the sound that they make is that instead of drawing the bow across the string this way, the bow is pushed, and it gives the onset of the sound, the beginning of the sound, quite a different coloration and quality than, say, Rebecca's cello just 4 feet away. So they may look similar, but they really are not. They're quite distinct. On this side, the recorders, Bach would write when he meant for recorder instead of a flute, which was kind of a newfangled thing for Bach, he would write flauto dolce, the sweet flute. And that always indicates that he wants the recorder to be played. There's no better way for you to hear what these instruments can do and the sound world they can create than the opening sonata of this cantata, which is 20 measures long, and it's about the most perfect 20 measures that has been ever composed, I think. I love it. So let's get right after it. And what I want you to hear, we'll do the opening couple of bars before the recorders enter, so you can hear how Bach lays out the harmony and how the quality of that harmony is cultivated. So here's the beginning. Did you tune? Is it okay? Is there? Okay, sorry guys. Okay, it's instantly an intimate sound. You are drawn in. They don't come to you, but you come to them. And it's delicate, intimate chamber music. Let's go one more time. Just a little more expanse in the approach to the tempo. And 1. Now the recorders will come in. Okay, so it's such a delicate, beautiful entrance that the recorders make. And I'd like for you to hear what happens under the recorders. Can I just hear a continuo group at the recorder entrance? Measure 4. Okay, so the stringed instruments play low E flat. They could very easily just play whole note, just one sustained note. But Bach writes for the instruments to beam, boom, 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 pulse that a little bit. And not separate bows, but 4 under one bow. Deep, boom, boom, boom. It's just all together. There's so many possibilities for how this could happen. But the pulsing of the harmony is there. And the only way that the harmony is heard differently is by Justin's figuration against that. Now, that's a beautiful thing. We could go on about that and have a nice harmony lesson, and we'd enjoy that. But the recorder entrance is spectacular because they play in a sort of almost a binary way. The sound is on. And Bach writes that there are 2 players, and they play essentially a unison, the same part. So I always think this is Bach sitting at the organ console. He's thinking, I like that 8-foot flute. Wonder what it sounds like with this 8-foot flute at the same time. Which is not something you typically do, but to draw similar voices that conflict with one another. But he likes that haloed unison, or that slightly sampled kind of sound. And he does this in the John Passion in the famous flute aria, soprano aria, Ich folge dir gleichfalls. Can we go right on bar 4 now with everybody in? And listen for the recorder line and how this sort of halo happens. 3, 4. Now listen here. Okay, could I ask recorders, could you play,
Measure 7?
yeah, measure 7, just the recorders. Ready, and. What do you make of it? It's just the coolest thing, isn't it?
Really cool.
So this is where I sit the score and I look at it and I ask, well, why? What is Bach trying to do? And I can't talk to him, so I have to make up, a conversation with myself, which is, entertaining for most people. So what I can imagine is that our time and God's time, ideally, are like the footprints in the sand, that we walk in tandem, and that our lives are in accordance with. Our lives are in the image of the Creator. We walk the way that Christ walks. We acknowledge our sin, we acknowledge our redemption, and we give that to the world. This is the ideal, and the recorders play that ideal, perfect unison with one another, until measure 7 comes along. And then second recorder gets a little distracted by something worldly, no doubt, and that perfect unison becomes slightly refracted and slightly disjunct. And it even goes further afield by increasing that lower neighbor half step to a whole step. And this is dangerous territory. But this, if you can imagine, the imago Dei, the image of God that mirrored before you, all of a sudden you notice there's a crack or a ripple in the glass that causes the image just to be less than perfect, some sort of refraction or something kind of like that. It's an incredible image, orally and visually, I think. The sonata continues in this way over several phrases, and you'll hear the recorders do the same kind of event under different harmonies. Ultimately, the bottom of the room shore up the harmony and say, have faith, have courage, and all will be as God ordains. End of the movement. Then the chorus comes in, please stand, and the first chorus sets up the case, makes the case for the moment. And Bach sets this in the old motet style, in which each line of text is set to different music. So it's not one movement called allegro that has, various themes that happen within that. Rather, each line of text is distinct music with different tempi, different keys, and so forth. So the first there are 3 lines of text that the chorus have here. The first is, God's time is the allerbeste Zeit. God's time is the very best time of all. And they do this in a rather forthright way. They say those words, 4 times over the course of these measures. And it gives you enough time to hear die allerbeste, die allerbeste, die allerbeste, die allerbeste. Enough of repetition for you to really understand the rhetoric here. Let's go from the beginning of that. 3, 4, and 1.
Gottes Zeit ist die allerbeste, die allerbeste Zeit. Die allerbeste ist die allerbeste Zeit.
Okay, and now that's the first bit of text. Lovely. The next bit of text is really meant to mirror the music exactly. And this text is, in Him, in God, we live and we move and find our being. What they actually sing is, in ihm leben, in Him we live. The next verb is weben, not really move. Weben is actually weave. The web of our lives is woven, weave, weben, und sind wir, and we find our being. Sopranos, and will you just start this section? So what you'll hear is a fugato, imitative, passed around the different voices, but there's a long melisma on weben. In ihm leben, you can hear the looms flurrying and the weaving happening. Right on it, please. 1, 2, 3. Okay, all right. So then you get that text passed around, and then the sopranos sing, Solange will, as long as God wills. Solange, and I'm going to leave the surprise for how Bach sets Solange. It's 1 note over 4 bars. It's a long note. Solange will. You'll hear it. And then it's repeated in the recorders. The third and final phrase of this opening material is the opposite of this middle. In Him we live and move, weave, find our being, but also in ihm sterben. In Him also we die, as He wills, when He wills. And immediately Bach writes for this tempo to slow right down, and the music immediately becomes harmonically difficult and thorny. And we're going to go, let's start at Solange. So this is the upbeat to 31. Let's go, I'll skip that comment, let's see. Right at upbeat to 31. Zola, 1, 2, 3, and. So, to, tum, tum, bom, ti, da, an,
Ich sterbe
as he wills. Up to God. Thank you very much. Have a chair. Then, without any pause or anything, the music continues right on with a brief moment for a tenor solo. And here, this is the text from the psalmist. Ach Herr, lehre uns bedenken. Lord, teach me to know the number of my days, or teach me to know mine end. It's said variously in Psalm 39, says it that way. Psalm 90 says it slightly differently. And even within our various translations, you find all manner of ways that comes down to us. But the idea is, Lord, teach me to understand that my life, my time is but a hand's breadth to you. 1,000 years in thy sight are but as yesterday, as Psalm 90 says. Help me to understand and have perspective that my life and the scope of my life and all the trials that I have here on earth are nothing compared to your time and to the time ahead in eternity, in the life everlasting. So, for this, there's a little introduction from the instrumental ensemble, and then the tenor steps forward and sings, how many phrases is it, Colin? It's like 5 hardly. It's quite brief. But the last phrase that Colin sings is the point of it. Teach me to know the end of to number my days, so that, in order that, I can become wise. And for that is a high A flat on that pitch, on Krug, a short pitch also. Can I go forward without doing it, Colin? Is that all right? Okay, you'll hear that in a moment. Then, a vivace happens in the score. Vivace, we typically think means fast, but it means sprightly, thoughtful, all of a sudden, scurry, flurry, get your house in order. And bass steps forward, and Michael, let's have a little bit of this with the recorders. The bass steps forward to say, bestelle dein Haus, get your house in order. Putz, clean, clean, clean. Because you don't know when the Lord is coming back and when you're going home. So make sure when the doorbell rings, you're all set to go. So teach me to know that my life is fragile and frail and all is but vanity in this mortal coil. And to not waste time, but get my house in order. Sounds something like this. Right on the vivace. 1, 2, 3, and
Bestelle dein Haus, bestelle dein Haus, denn du wirst sterben und nicht lebendig bleiben. Denn du wirst sterben und nicht lebendig bleiben.
okay. Now, you'll get to hear Michael sing fancy melismas on lebendig several times in this aria, living. So every time Bach gets to set that word, it's set in a difficult and wonderful way, which lots of putzing and cleaning and preparation. Thank you guys very much. We're in good hands with your Bestellerin. Great. Now, this leads to the central movement of the cantata. We've had admonitions that basically say they're grim. And this is the Old Testament law. And here is the moment where law and grace meet. And my Lutheran colleague, Jess Chica, would say, not against each other, but they are in dialectic with one another. They are in conversation with one another, and one can't exist without the other. And I'm so grateful for her teaching me that some years ago. I learned a new word, dialectic, and it's been great ever since. How about that? So what happens is Bach sets the old law as a fugue. What could be better for a law than a fugue? Here, the old law is, es ist der alte, old Bund. It is the old law. Mensch, man, du musst sterben. You will or you must die. It's just going to happen. It's a fact of life. Mensch, du musst sterben. Es ist der alte Bund. That's it. So this is what that sounds like. Under it's a three-voice fugue for alto, tenor, bass with a walking bass line, directly on the fugato, guys.
Es ist der alte Bund, Mensch, du musst sterben. Es ist der alte Bund, du musst sterben, du musst sterben, du musst sterben, du musst sterben. Es ist der
And that's the opening section of this fugato. And you hear it's earthly bound. It's laden. Es ist der All. There's a tritone in it, characterizes it. It's grim, it's forlorn. Somebody sings est, is, it's es, ist. Careful, no T on the first word in this region. Okay, now Bach introduces grace. He introduces the New Testament, the promise of the life everlasting. That's what we've been waiting for. That's what faith has taught us. That's what our preparation of life is for. And it happens in the voice of the soprano, Logan Trotter today. And let's go right on the half bar where we start, 1, 4, 5, half bar. And Logan sings one tiny phrase that's from Revelation 20, 22. Come, Lord Jesus. This is at the end of the verses about, and I saw a new heaven and a new earth, and the former things pass away, all this. And that ends with, come, Lord Jesus. And in those words, in this supplication is affirmation. I know this will happen. There's a little doubt. I think it will happen. I want it to happen. But sometimes doubt is the greater part of faith. You hear that in Logan's counter offer to the old law. Here's half bar of 1, 4, 5. 1 and 2. Jong, bong. Okay, she sings a little bit more of the same kind of material, but Bach adds one element here, which is just the instruments outlining a familiar chorale tune, which is, I have put my affairs in God's hands. And they will play it in long tones, and it's just, you might not know it. The studious ear in Leipzig or in Bach's congregation in Mühlhausen, let's hope that they knew this chorale tune. But it's only 2 phrases, but it's just an oral hint of I'm putting my trust in God along with this. Now, at the end of this movement, there's a back and forth between Logan, the soprano part, supplication, high, cheerful, with the earthly bound fugue. And at the very end, some of the most remarkable music that I know is the end of this movement. And as if the confident person of faith, all of a sudden, saying and singing the songs of the faith as she's supposed to do, all of a sudden, all of the moorings that have secured and strengthened her have been snipped. And as if somebody pulled the plug and all the air goes out, and all of a sudden, she floats away. And you can hear all of the earth floating away because section by section, they recede. And she's left alone on a wild melisma that's almost without form and frantic. And then Bach marks the final measure with a rest and a fermata over it. This is a dramatic pause. Our preacher today knows something about those dramatic timings and pauses, I'm told. This is a remarkable thing for Bach to write a fermata in the score. He's the only person who would see the score. But he's taking care to mark this moment, to say, wait a minute, what will happen next? Let's go from, how about upbeat to 174, please? Upbeat to 174. I will cue you. This is the alto entrance. Got it? 2 and 3. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to ask the recorders to play their entrance so that you can hear a hint of what happened from the sonata in the 16th notes. Similar. Here's the upbeat to the quarter note entrance. There, 2 and 3. Isn't that wild? It's amazing. And it's very soft, so I wanted you to be able to hear that. Now, thank you, have a chair. After this fermata, and after Logan has lost all of her supports, the things that tether her to community, to faith, to church, whatever, all of a sudden, she's neither here nor there. And Bach decides that this is the moment that it should also change voices to alto. And the alto steps forward to sing the words of committal. Into thy hands I commit my spirit, for you have redeemed me. This is the ultimate moment of faith. I'm neither here nor there, and I know that I'm supposed to reach out my hand and Jesus will meet me. And so, in a neither here nor there way, there's no instrument that really can play this opening material except for the organ. And the organ starts in the lower left-hand register and plays a lonely minor ascending scale up into an alto register. Sounds something like this. And then that forms essentially a ground bass that repeats throughout this very simple aria for Just Justin and We Kyat. It's the most intimate moment in the piece because we're not sure where we are. You'll have to hear the service, the performance, and in the 11 o'clock hour to hear what Bach does next, which is the Vox Christi, the voice of Christ, who of course is a baritone, steps forward to sing the words from our Luke lesson today. Today, you will be with me in paradise. And just as the alto reaches up and extends a hand up on a tentative minor scale, Christ extends hand down, a helping hand up in a beautiful major scale. And then all the instruments come in, and we have truly touched the garment of thy hem. So, the hem of thy garment. The robe of Christ is so plush once the violas da gamba come back in and layered with a chorale tune, Mit Frieden und Freud ich fahre dahin. Therefore I go with peace and joy, a Luther chorale. and then there's a final movement, which is doxology. It's extraordinary music and unbelievable insight into the most important moment of life that our life of faith can prepare for. I can't be more grateful to all of you for realizing this moment and something from the noggin of a 22-year-old long ago. Thank you all very much, and we'll see you in service. Thank you.